on the left. Well, I like when you call me skunk. Nobody else does it. That's all I have. I'm like this. You would have really seen it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's right about 7 o'clock. We are going to go ahead and try to get this meeting started. So if you could please take your seats if there's one available. And we're going to go ahead and move to start. Okay, Ms. Gilhausen, would you like to give the invocation?
Stand with me and pray, if you will. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity we have tonight to meet together and work on the business of this district and help drive it forward, Lord. Thank you for the privilege that we have every day to take care of thousands of children and influence them for the betterment of our county and of our nation. Thank you for the families that reside here in Clay County and entrust their children to us with their education, Father. I pray that you would be with us as we meet tonight, Lord, that everything we say and do would be pleasing to your ears, Lord. And I pray for all the students as we're in the testing season, Lord. I pray that you'd be with them, that a spirit of peace would rest on the schools, and you would just give our students the ability to draw from the knowledge that they've gained this year. Again, be with us tonight as we meet, and it's in your holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the school board meeting of the Clay County School Board, April 21st, 2016. Want to welcome citizens of Clay County I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedules to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you will find located in the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic that you wish to speak about, and turn it in promptly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the discussion agenda. Your participation is welcome and appreciated. The first item up is the adoption of the consent agenda, but I will note that item number C32 has been pulled to discussion, so we will take that up afterwards. Before we bring the adoption of the consent agenda, we do have several cards of folks that would like to speak to the consent agenda. So I will go through those quickly. The first item, item C6, we have Mr. Keith Nichols.
My name is Keith Nichols, and my address is on the card. Since this is on the consent agenda, it's pretty reasonable to assume that it's going to pass. But I want to read something from you all, for you all, that's coming from this package. And don't worry, I will explain it afterwards. In the contract that you're going to be signing tonight, that you're going to be approving tonight, it says contractor drivers and monitors hired by the district shall fall under the definition of employees in the Employment Practices Article 6. To facilitate bus driver recruitment, newly hired bus drivers not previously employed by Clay County Schools will be placed at Step 5 for general operator's license experience and may receive additional credit for each year of verified full-time school bus driving experience up to a maximum initial placement of Step 11. Upon ratification of this contract, current employed school bus drivers on Step 1 to 4 will be moved to Step 5 retroactive from July 1st, 2015. Additional experience for current school bus drivers will not be granted beyond Step 5. Clay County school bus drivers that separate from employment and are subsequently rehired as school bus drivers will be placed at Step 5 and not granted additional experience credit. Now for me, this means that after 9 years of faithful service, I will move to Step 5 tonight. I will move from $11.73 an hour up to $12.15 an hour. A 42 cents an hour pay raise, right? So yay me. The thing is, though, someone that drove a bus for 6 years in Gila Bend, Arizona can start out 6 steps above me. That is $14.58 an hour, or $2.43 an hour more than me. At minimum contract hours, that is $2,700 a year. As bad as it is for me, imagine that you are a driver sitting at Step 10. You get a nickel an hour, which comes out to less than $60 a year. I mention this because the last several months, Mr. Van Zandt has portrayed both unions as greedy and uncooperative, and the majority of the senior staff eagerly jumped on the bandwagon, demonizing and demoralizing people who had swallowed their pride by agreeing to the slap in the face I just read to you. So understand this. We held our noses as we voted overwhelmingly to ratify this with 86%. But you are by no means off the hook. The problem with our education system is our political system, and November is the reset button. U-N-I-O-N. That is a 5-letter word, not a 4-letter word, folks. So all I can say is goodbye to a couple of you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Rebecca Smith.
My name is Rebecca Smith. My address is on file. I am a Clay County school bus driver, proud to be one. And I like my job, love my children, take my job serious. However, like Mr. Nichols said, we unanimously voted for this contract. 5 cent, when you add it up during the week, can't even buy a loaf of bread. But we went ahead and did it anyway, because something is better than nothing. We have been about 7 years without a step increase, and we asked for help. But like Mr. Nichols says, we are going to have people step over us when they come here to be hired. Where's the appreciation for loyalty? I don't know. I do know that we need drivers. And I do know that the only way we're going to get drivers is we're going to have to bring that pay scale up. But I don't feel like it's right on the backs of the people who have worked for you loyally. You know, we work for hard, and it should mean something to this board. And I was hoping to speak afterwards because I had 2 speeches prepared, one for if you said yes and the other one if you said no. So this is kind of light and subdued. Everybody knows that. But I will say this. I would like to take the opportunity. I wasn't here when you voted yes on our insurance. And I thank each and every one of you who voted yes for our insurance, to change our insurance. We needed the help. You listened and you heard us. But I hope you're listening tonight too. Stepping over us, hard working, that we've been here. Somebody coming off the street is going to step over us and go to step 11. And I don't think that's fair. But it's what we ended up with. And I hope if there's anything that can straighten that out, maybe y'all can, I don't know. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ginger Burris. Good. Okay. Teresa Dixon.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Dixon. My address is on file. I'm the president of CESPA, and I just wanted to stand here tonight just to say, first of all, glad this bargaining session is over. It's been a hard 18 months. It's been hard on our people. The morale, I've never seen it as low as what it is right now, and I really am hopeful that we can get this behind us and move forward to a new era. Our people feel unappreciated. And while a nickel, it's not much, but a nickel added to their pay scale, a nickel reoccurring added to their pay scale, it meant enough that they were able to take the good with the bad. Please know that we're going to continue working on solving the bad. We're going to continue working and bargaining and going through language with your bargaining team to try to get everything set right for our employees, give them what they deserve. And I hear a lot about fourth calculations, and I just wanted to reiterate, fourth calculations, I know they're important. You know, I know that's when the rubber meets the road. But typically, we begin bargaining right after the fourth calculation. In 13-14, we began bargaining right after the fourth calculation. School board's bargaining team brought to us first proposal, status quo, nothing. 14-15, we began bargaining we were still bargaining after the fourth calculation. School board's team brought to us status quo, nothing. Tonight we're going to ratify the 14-15 contract and encompass the 15-16, and then we're going to get started on the 16-17. When I think about negotiations and bargaining, status quo isn't bargaining. We need to get creative. We need to work together. We need to put our heads together and come up with some things. A $100 bonus that would be taxed at a high rate is not what our people need. They need reoccurring funds that put food on the table. A couple of days off, that's a great thing, paid days off. That I think Mr. Brodsky came up with that idea. It was very creative, and I appreciated his creativity, but it doesn't put food on the table. And that's what our people need. They need money, funds to put food on the table. And I hope that as we start the 16-17 contract negotiations, that you'll think of that. and don't come with the first proposal being status quo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Trudy Lawless for item C7. She'll be speaking on the master contract.
Trudy Lawless, my address is on file. I do not stand before you tonight to attack you. I know how skittish you are and how intimidating you find this group of teachers. I've always tried to present a rational and logical defense of my profession, and it saddens me to know that my words have fallen on mostly deaf ears. You see, I know that what you do speaks more truth than what you say. I sat in this audience in this very room when the 2015-2016 Clay County Teacher of the Year clearly explained that a neighboring county was better able to protect and provide for his young family than this one. Later I read where it was said that no one could know his intentions on leaving the county. Well, you can know if you listen. I also sat here during the hearing, the impasse hearing, and was appalled that your lawyer said that the high turnover rate was not an issue because it's been high for some time. It's been high because there's a problem. Sorry. The workload has increased exponentially. The stress that we all face is mind-boggling. If your intent is to kill public education, you are doing a good job. I've always thought of public education as the great equalizer. There is no class, no race, no religion, no political party. We come together to learn. I just want to teach my students engineering. I want to instill in them a passion for learning so that they continue to learn even when their school days are over. I want them to know how to get along with others and how to work together even if they don't agree, or even, heaven forbid, when they don't like each other. That's what will be expected of them when they grow up, unless, of course, they get elected to the school board. Tonight I will confront you again in hopes that something I say might make a difference. During the day I'm a faithful teacher, an employee that will work hard to meet the needs of my students, despite what you decide tonight. I'm hoping that when you make these decisions, you think of me and teachers like me who already work for you and the children and the parents of this county. We work hard and are saddened that so many of our fellow teachers are dropping out, either to go to another county that offers more in the way of compensation or job protection, or to leave the profession completely. You were recommended options that did not cost you anything and would have won the favor of your teachers, yet you chose to slap us down yet again. I propose that if you have a bad teacher, quote-unquote bad teacher, after 3 years of effective or highly effective ratings, you don't have a teacher problem, you have an administrator problem. All of my professional contract buys me. All it buys me is due process. Why would you want to deny that right to annual contract teachers? Most workers get this protection after 3 months. Why was it too much to ask after 3 years? I just don't understand. Please enlighten me.
Thank you, Ms. Lawless. We have one more card, Victoria Kidwell. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
My name is Victoria Kidwell. I'm a teacher at Clay County. My address is on file. Tonight you're going to vote to approve the teacher's contract for the school year that ends in 30 days or less. On Monday, April 18th, our superintendent sent an email to every member of the bargaining unit saying he wanted to give teachers a $500 raise all along, and testifying to his captive audience that he had always been a supporter of teachers. Teachers know that this is far from the truth. Mr. Van Zandt has shown consistent opposition to teachers' needs and requests. He's repeatedly voted against our teacher contract in 2009, 10, 10, 11, and 11, 12. Even when every other board member voted for the contract, he voted no. The salary proposal sought to take away $450 in hourly pay for professional development hours teachers were being forced to work. That hourly pay would be replaced with roughly the same amount of money, but paid into our salary instead. However, even though teachers would not get paid for the extra time they were putting in, we would still be held responsible for adding this training time into our schedule. This proposal was a zero gain for teachers, not a salary increase. The reason teachers voted to ratify this contract is that the county made a mistake at the hearing. Their intention was to take away the PLC money already promised and replace it with the same money on our salary. but by the impasse hearing date, teachers had worked nearly all of the extra hours and been paid for them. The language, stop paying PLCs and put the $500 on salary, was a legal contract that they approved. You approved. Teachers know that if Mr. Van Zant could get out of paying the teachers, he would. This is a lucky mistake in our favor, and luck is the only thing teachers can count on in Clay County right now. Teachers are angry, tired of the disrespect, tired of coming to school board meetings to fight with the superintendent and the board. Mr. Van Zant wrote in his email that he wants to move forward working together, avoiding scenarios like the recent impasse. But moving forward is only possible when there's mutual respect, a shared vision, and a willingness to compromise. Unfortunately, there is a pervasive climate of disrespect, disregard, and dishonesty toward employees at Clay schools. The teachers of Clay County hear your words, but we do not see the corresponding actions. As teachers, we expect to be allowed to focus fully on our students. We need to know that the leaders of our district place our students' welfare above their political agenda. We want to trust that our leaders are willing to sacrifice the same way teachers do every day to provide the best learning experiences possible for our students. We continue to wait to see actions that will match the lofty rhetoric of our leaders. We no longer trust your words. That time is over. We're not listening anymore. Now we're watching, and we encourage all of Clay County to watch too.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Okay, prior to, I've got a couple more things that we're going to do prior to the adoption of the consent agenda. Mr. Van Zant, you had one comment that you wanted to.
Yes, I wanted to introduce Lauren Bankert. Lauren, I didn't tell you that beforehand, but if you would just stand up and wave. This is our new coordinator of communications. She has helped us this week kind of standardize our process with proclamations, and you're going to hear some of those proclamations along with the recognitions this month and next month for the end of the school year activities. So thank you, Lauren, and welcome to Clay County.
Thank you. Okay, there are 4 proclamations that we are going to read before we adopt the consent agenda, because they are actually on the consent agenda. And 2 of them, I just want to say, were actually on last month's consent agenda, but there was actually no written proclamation, and we didn't actually read anything. So we're going to address both of those tonight, along with the other 2 that we had intended. And so the first one is, it's Proclamation 16-16, Administrative Professionals Week. And I believe, Ms. Karakis, you have that one.
I do, thank you. Administrative Professionals Week, April 24th through the 30th, 2016. Administrative Professional Day, April 27th, 2016. Whereas April 24th through the 30th, 2016 has been designated Administrative Professionals Week, and whereas April 27th has been designated as Administrative Professionals Day, and whereas this occasion is observed globally as a way to show appreciation and support for all administrative support personnel, and whereas these individuals provide valuable assistance to administrators, teachers, staff, parents, and students throughout our district, and whereas our district's mission is to provide a public education experience that is motivating, challenging, and rewarding for all children, and whereas by performing these duties with skill, courtesy, and professionalism, administrative professionals in Clay County schools contribute significantly to that mission. Now therefore be it resolved, the School Board of Clay County does hereby proclaim April 24th through the 30th, 2016 as Administrative Professionals Week, and April 27th, 2016 as Administrative Professionals Day in Clay County, duly adopted and approved by the School Board of Clay County this 21st day of April 2016.
Okay. The second one is Proclamation 1617, and this was also one that was on last month. This is Teacher Appreciation Week and Teacher Appreciation Day. Teacher Appreciation Week, May 2nd through the 6th, 2016, and Teacher Appreciation Day, May 3rd, 2016. Whereas it is appropriate that we recognize our teachers for the way in which they lend their passion and skills to educate the children of Clay County. And whereas by helping students to grow in knowledge and skill, teachers open the door of opportunity to our young people and help them become responsible, productive citizens. And whereas our teachers have played an indispensable role in our district's recent achievements, including our A rating and a record high school graduation rate. And whereas we each remember our most cherished teachers and reflect on their influence in our lives. And whereas teachers deserve the gratitude of students, parents, and all citizens who benefit from the education in Clay County. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of Clay County does hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 6th, 2016 as Teacher Appreciation Week and May 3rd, 2016 as Teacher Appreciation Day in Clay County, duly adopted and approved by the School Board of Clay County this 21st day of April 26th. Okay. The next one is Proclamation 1614. And I believe Miss Ashley Gilhausen, and this is National School Nurse Day.
National School Nurse Day, May 11th, 2016. Whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas all students have a right to have their health needs met safely while in the school setting. And whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school. And whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and in ensuring students' academic success for more than 100 years, and whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. And whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, parents, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health by promoting wellness and improving health outcomes for our nation's children. And whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at its peak. And whereas school nurses are members of school-based mental health teams, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day. Therefore, be it that was a misprint. Whereas the National Association of School Nurses celebrates and acknowledges the accomplishments of school nurses everywhere and their efforts of meeting the needs of today's students by improving the delivery of health care in our schools, and offers gratitude for the nation's school nurses who contribute to our local communities by helping students stay healthy in school and ready to learn, and keeping parents and guardians at work, not just on this National School Nurse Day, but at every opportunity throughout the year. And whereas Rick Scott, Governor of Florida, has proclaimed May 11th, 2016 as School Nurse Day in Florida and commended its observances to all citizens, and now therefore be it resolved that the Superintendent and School Board of Clay County, Florida do hereby proclaim May 11th, 2016 as School Nurse Day. Duly adopted and approved by the School Board of Clay County, Florida, this 21st day of April, 2016.
And our final proclamation would be Proclamation number 1615, School Nutrition Employee Week.
School Nutrition Employee Week. Whereas nutritious meals at school are an essential part of each school day, and whereas the staff of the School District of Clay County's Food and Nutrition Services Department are committed to providing healthy, nutritious meals to the district's children, and whereas Food and Nutrition Services staff has served over 4.5 million meals to our students last year, or more than 25,000 meals per day. And whereas the staff of the district's Food and Nutrition Services Department understands their important role in the link between a healthy diet and a positive learning environment. And whereas the staff of the district's Food and Nutrition Services Department deserves to have their important role in efforts of meeting the nutritional needs of the district's students celebrated and acknowledged. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of Clay County does hereby proclaim May 2nd through 6th, 2016 as School Nutrition Employee Week, duly adopted and approved by the School Board of Clay County this 21st day of April, 2016.
Thank you, Ms. Condon. Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion for adoption of the consent agenda.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Who was that?
Mrs. stuttered.
Okay, Ms. Studdard has a motion for approval and a second by Ms. Gilhausen. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Broski to present the contracts for signatures, and I would like to invite Ms. Dixon and Ms. Paiva to the front to sign those contracts.
Yep, right there on the president. And there's two of them to grease up. There's two pieces. And then if you can just wait.
The moment in the making. Okay.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Ms. Dixon?
Josh Brown. He went to this, yeah, because they're recognizing the Apache chair people.
Did you see Josh?
Yeah.
I know it's hard. It is. I know it's difficult and it's hard to sit up there and swallow that pill as well. So we do care. I know we do. I know we care. We care about it. And I just wanted to know I'm personally care about it. We're gonna do what we can. Let's get to work.
I don't hear from you.
Okay. We're going to move into recognitions and awards. Should we clap? Recognitions and awards. First item up is recognition of District Art and Essay Contest winner. Dr. Herndon is going to present that.
Good evening. Earlier this spring, Clay County participated in Just Read Florida Celebrate Literacy Week. Schools around the district planned special events that highlighted literacy. At the district level, we sponsor both an essay contest and an art contest. And the winners, first place winners' work has been posted on our district website. Tonight, we are proud to recognize our first place winners in these contests. First, for our K2 grade level art contest winner is Isabella Thomas from Shadowline Elementary. In our 3rd through 5th grade category, the winner is Emily Poe from Oakleaf Village Elementary.
Oh, get her clothes.
Our 6th through 8th grade art contest winner is Emma Rogel, Keystone Heights Elementary. We'll move on next to our essay contest. K2 essay contest winner, first place, is Logan Shover. Third through 5th grade essay contest winner, Derek Fagan from Thunderbolt Elementary. And our 6th through 8th grade essay contest winner is Christopher Kozak from Shadowline Elementary. What a smile. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Okay, next I would like to call on Mr. Mike Wingate, who will present the recognition of the district and state science fair winners.
Good evening. How do you top that now? Come on.
That's a tough one.
How do you top that? Okay. All of you know this is the time of year we'd like to recognize our science fair winners. So tonight we got the pleasure of recognizing the outstanding work of not only the students but also the teachers, the parents, and all that they do. But also we have some of our business partners here. I can tell you, all of you know the Clay Rotarians do such a wonderful job. Also, yes, so give them a round of applause. Clay Rotarians, we appreciate that. Also, we want to recognize, and they're going to come up in just a few minutes, but Orange Park Medical Center, they also do a wonderful job and help us throughout the year, so we're really excited. In fact, you're going to hear more news in probably a couple of weeks about even a deeper partnership with Orange Park Medical. We'll talk about that later. So, but at this time, I want the person at the county office that works with all the science fair directors, the science teachers, let her come up, introduce the winners, and introduce those business partners. And she does a tremendous amount of work. If and all of you have come to the science fair, you see what a big event that is. We've got our state science fair attendees. Many of them took places down at the state science fair, so we're excited about that. So let me introduce our curriculum specialist who handles this event, Miss Nancy Watson.
Thank you very much. Once again, we're back. It always seems to go so quickly, so we do want to take a minute this year and reach out and recognize our community partnerships. And we'd like to present them with some certificates if Mr. Wingate.
Yes. Mr. Van Zandt, come on down so you can help us give these certificates out, all right?
There are a lot of behind-the-scenes things that you don't go see, and even though I usually get my name called out, it's so many people and so many teachers and so many administrators and so many people that support it, and our superintendent as well. And so we'd like to start tonight by calling up. I'd like to recognize a few people. I'd like to start with Miss Lillian Bell from the Clay Rotary. I have to tell you, every time I work with her, I just don't know if I will ever have the energy and the commitment she does. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have her up here with me. Also, I'd like to also have Mr. Chad Patrick, the Chief Executive Officer of Orange Park Medical Center, who's outreached and reached through us with sponsorship, mentors, and financial scholarships. So thank you very much. Thank you. And I'd like to this time to announce some of the people around the district that help. As always, they're such a big part of it, and in no particular order. Miss Jamie Shaw, she is a science teacher and helps me every step from Green Cove Junior High. Miss Brenda Weeks, a retired former fair director, and who also serves on the state and international science fair judging committees for us. Mr. Craig Martin from Middleburg High. He has always worked again on this. Thank you, Brenda. On the state committee and international. I'm hoping I'm handing you the right ones, but we might have to switch those a little later. Just saying. And again, some of our Rotarians. Mr. Mike Cummings, and he's from the Clay Rotary at Orange Park Sunrise, our business partners. Thank you. And with them, we also, the ones not in attendance from the Rotarians from Green Cove Springs Junior, Miss Danielle Judd, Mr. John Long from Orange Park Sunset, Mr. Siegel from Keystone Heights, and Miss Margie Thomas from the Fleming Island Road. All the Rotaries come together. So when we say Clay Rotarians, it's all of them to come to support that. So thank you very much. And if I could, I'd like to have them stay up here. Maybe our students could line up right in front of them. This year we had the pleasure of taking 14 projects to the State Science and Engineering Fair in Florida. And I'd like to announce all the, if you could hold your applause to the end, each of the students, and then every one of these children were in the top 1/2 of 1% in the state. So just competing at the state level. Some of the students aren't here, but I'm going to announce them. Mr. Gavin Baker from Green Cove Junior, Mr. Zachary Barkin from Clay High School, Mr. Paul Barletta from Ridgeview High School, Mr. Joshua Brown from Oakleaf High School, Mr. Luke Laveau from Oakleaf Junior, Mr. Jack Cooksey from Grace, Brogan Covey Shannon from Green Cove Junior, David Denemark from Orange Park Elementary, Mr. Donald Garrett from Ridgeview High School, Miss Elena Hobby from Lake Asbury Elementary, Sebastian Khashoggi, got it, Lakeside Junior, Sierra Langford from Clay High School, Mr. Eric Lotze from Fleming Island High School, Mr. Nathan Martis from Oakleaf High School, Luke Patton from McRae Elementary, Miss Daphne Tompkins from Ridgeview High School. Each of these children competed, and I'll hand out their certificates in just a moment. I was remiss on that. Every one of these children went on to the state and competed, and I'd like to call out some additional recognition. Mr. Jack Cooksey took a state honorable mention in animal sciences. Miss Brogan Covey Shannon took 3rd place in the state overall in earth and environmental sciences, in 7th grade, I believe. Mr. Khashoggi also received special recognition by NASA and placed 3rd place overall in the state from Lakeside Junior High School. Very young children, very young children. Mr. Luke Patton from McRae He was recognized for special awards by 2 of the regional fairs. And then if I could go on to announce 2 students here that are seniors, and some of these have been here following us for the years. 4th place in seniors in the state in mathematics was Mr. Zachary Barkin from Clay High School. And in 2nd place in the state, who has previously placed 4th in the world in engineering from Oakleaf, Mr. Nathan Martis. With the support of our Clay County Rotarians, Clay County School Board, and Orange Park Medical Center, Clay County has the opportunity to take Mr. Zachary Barkin and Mr. Nathan Martis to compete May 8th through 13th at the International Science and Engineering Fair. Well, to compete against 75 countries. So thank you very much. And if we could ask any other teachers, and Miss Jen Butler, who was our outstanding fair director. She's also one of the fair directors, has students up here. But any of these students, teachers, any of the fair directors, and the administrators who are our support in these projects. So come on up if we could get a photo, please. Come on up. And again, thank you, and say cheese.
All right. Well, congratulations to all the students. The next item up is Superintendent Van Zant is going to recognize Miss Pauline Jackson, Northeast Florida's School Psychologist of the Year.
All right, Miss Jackson beat me up here, but I have to say some nice things about her first. And there were so many nice things, we had to cut it down for the sake of not talking for like an hour and a half about Miss Jackson. But we're recognizing Miss Pauline Jackson tonight, who is selected as the School Psychologist of the Year by the Northeast Florida Association of School Psychologists. Miss Jackson has gone above and beyond to advocate for the mental health and well-being of children. She's worn many hats in her long career in education, starting as a teacher and working her way up. She's also served on crisis teams in Duval and Clay counties and provided district training in crisis intervention. Pauline was highly recommended for this award by her fellow school psychologists in Clay, as well as school administrators and other ESE personnel. So congratulations, Ms. Jackson.
Take that brown paper off. It's hanging to the floor.
Okay, next I'd like to call on Miss Karen Robinson. She's going to give a presentation about school libraries.
Did we want to?
Sorry, we lost the cursor. Governor Scott also officially proclaimed April as School Library Month. Tonight, we are here to share many of the ways our library media programs help students achieve. Our school library teams are a mixture of instructional and support personnel. Each library team works diligently to provide library materials not only for their local school site, but to all Clay County teachers and students through interlibrary loans. A book in the southernmost part of the county can be sent to a teacher or student in the northernmost part of the county, and vice versa. Student achievement through access to all library collections is a primary goal, and ILLs are processed daily. When you see a media specialist reading stories to a class, playing Uno with their students, or engaging students in group activities as they learn to recognize primary sources, know that he or she has planned that lesson using the same curriculum maps the classroom teacher uses in an effort to enhance classroom lessons. A school's library media center is the largest classroom in the school, and exciting things are happening in those classrooms. Co-teaching research skills with subject area teachers promotes an engaging learning experience. The students on the left are learning about nonfiction text features. The student on the right is engaged in the Classroom Connections reading path created collaboratively between the media specialist and the classroom teacher. Media specialists collaborate across grade levels and departments. Here we see Middleburg High School TV production students teaching Wilkinson Junior High School students the proper techniques for producing a news show. Students from Oakleaf Village Elementary are participating in Reading Buddies. Students in the upper grades read with students in the lower grades. And the Ridgeview High School head football coach and several of his players are sharing their love of reading with the preschool students in Little Paws. Teacher librarians are leaders incorporating technology and instruction to meet the needs of our 21st century digital learners. They incorporate essential tools to create effective lessons for all learners. An important duty of most elementary and junior high media specialists is the school news team. The Student Media Festival is one of the largest library events of the year. Volunteer judges recently judged the 210 entries in this year's festival. Our winning entries will be announced on May 17th here in the Teacher Training Center during the annual awards ceremony. Digital leadership and creating a love of literature drive our school library media programs. In essence, teacher librarians are reading cheerleaders. We get books into the hands of students. Between August 3rd, 2015 and April 21st of this school year, 719,348 books were circulated. Now, this does not include our ebook collection, which requires an entirely different set of data. Our students truly are inspired to read. Many of our libraries provide the Accelerated Reader Program, a progress monitoring software that offers reading practice. It is used to motivate or to accelerate student reading skills and is available in both English and Spanish. Renaissance Home Connect sends emails to registered parents immediately when their child takes an AR reading or vocabulary quiz. This information is also available in English and Spanish. Unique to library media are the Sunshine State Young Readers Award Program and Florida Teens Read Program, sponsored by the Florida Association for Media and Education. The Clay County Supervisor of Elections Office works closely with our libraries to provide students an official voting experience as they cast their vote for the Sunshine State or Florida Teens Read Award. Other inspirational library programs include book fairs, Moms and Muffins, Dads and Donuts, the Jaguar Reading Challenge, and these just are to name a few. Author visits, both face-to-face and virtually, occur throughout the year. Pictured here is a small representation of our visits. Book clubs, book drives, and book adoptions are events that take place before school, during lunch, and after school, when students can talk about their favorite books in a relaxed, safe environment at a time convenient for the student. Our two largest community events featuring guest readers were Celebrate Literacy Week and Read Across America Day. A school library is always open. Many libraries arrange extended hours, and some are even open during the summer. Whether it is high school, or middle school, or elementary school, the library media specialist and assistant hit the ground running, ready for any action that comes their way. Whether teaching face-to-face or virtually, our mission is to provide services, resources, instruction, collaboration, and innovation to empower students and faculty to connect with ideas and information, to become informed decision makers and lifelong information literate learners. Libraries transform, and in our school district of Clay County Media Centers, every student achieves. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. And thank you for all you media specialists out there and what you do. Okay, next we have Mike Wingate is going to give a presentation about the St. Johns River State Collegiate High School at Orange Park High.
Well, thank you. In fact, we're going to have those folks give the presentation.
Okay.
They deserve all this credit along with Orange Park High School. But while Jordan gets the PowerPoint set up, let me just give you a little history on how this project has come to fruition. Several months ago, several members of the instructional division met, and it's just so talented, the people there. Mr. Umbaugh, Ms. Cornegay, Dr. Weiskopf, Francis Sellis, Dana Brock, all those folks met. We sat in a room and worked on a couple different projects, and we're so proud to announce tonight the partnership, a strengthening of a partnership that we already have with St. Johns River State. Superintendent's been involved in some of those discussions and meetings, and he full support behind this program, so we do appreciate that. But I want to introduce the Vice President of Academic Affairs right now. She's going to come up and introduce her folks. They're going to share a few minutes with you, along with the principal of Orange Park High School, Mr. Clayton Anderson. So please welcome Dr. Melanie Brown, the Vice President of Academic Affairs for St. Johns River State College.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I have several folks with me from SJR State. Come on over here so I can introduce you. I have with me Megan Deputy. She's the Director of Dual Enrollment for the college, and Dr. Edward Jordan. He's the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs, and Kristen Nicholson, the Dual Enrollment Specialist here for Clay County. Our team here has been, it's been our pleasure to partner with the Clay County School District to develop this collegiate high school at Orange Park High School. And we did this really quickly, just over the past, really, it's just been 2 months or so. And basically, we just wanted to share a couple of things with you tonight and let you know this initiative. We've always had a very strong partnership with the Clay County School District that we've been very proud of. And this new program is very exciting. It's something that we've kind of wanted to start within one of our 3 counties. As you know, St. Johns River State College serves Clay, Putnam, and St. Johns counties, and we have a very strong dual enrollment program within our 3 counties. We have about 10,000 students amongst our 3 counties, and of those 10,000, about 1,800 are dual enrollment students. So we have a very strong dual enrollment population. We're committed to dual enrollment. But we don't really have a traditional collegiate high school as you think of it. So I've personally been very interested in starting one of those, and when Mr. Wingate kind of mentioned to me that he was interested in doing something different at Orange Park, I said, hey, well, what about a collegiate high school? And so we were able to pull our teams together and in a really short period of time come up with this, and it's going to work really well for your students, for our students. So the collegiate high school model that we're going to be starting at Orange Park this fall will be a cohort model which will enable high school students to earn both their high school diploma and their associate in arts degree while they're still enrolled in high school. Now we already have students that do that, so this isn't entirely new, but what makes this very special is that it's a very organized program. Those students who have been earning their AA through dual enrollment, that's something that they've done very pointedly by working with their high school counselor, but they've done it in ones and twos. It hasn't been a group of students at a high school who've gone on a track to do that from the 9th grade. And that's what's going to be happening now at Orange Park High School. So as you can see, starting in the 9th grade, we'll have students who are going to be taking classes at Orange Park High School as early as the 9th grade, working towards that AA. In the 12th grade, the students are going to be taking classes at our Orange Park campus. Just like our regular dual enrollment students, they have to be eligible for dual enrollment. So the students who we invited to participate, who will be starting in the fall, they had taken a high school class in the 8th grade, and they had the eligibility requirements. They'd met the 3.0 high school unweighted GPA in one of those high school classes that you guys offer in your 8th grade curriculum. This is very hard to see, but you can see that we have a laid out curriculum for the courses that they'll be taking. In the 9th grade, in the fall class, they're going to be taking college success skill in the fall. And then in the spring, they'll be taking life and career development. Those are 2 college classes, and those will be what they take in the 9th grade. In the 10th grade, they'll be taking a total of, they'll be taking 2 classes in the fall and 2 classes in the spring. In the 11th grade, they'll be taking 2 classes in the fall, 2 classes in the spring. And then in the 12th grade, so that's a total of 30 college credits that they'll earn in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. That's half of the AA. And then in the 12th grade, they'll be taking 30 college credits, 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring, to total the 60 credits, which is what is required to earn the AA. The Associate in Arts degree is the legally, in the state of Florida, it's the transfer degree. So Florida has the 2+2 agreement, and so these students will be ready to transfer seamlessly into their bachelor's degrees. We've also laid out for students the 4-year class plan so they can see how this works with their high school classes and what they'll be taking as well as their college courses. And the advantages of this collegiate high school are pretty obvious. The students will be having academic challenge, they'll be developing their critical thinking skills in these college classes. There's also that added benefit, though, of having exposure to a college campus while they're still in high school, working out some of those kinks that many students have. You know, we often have students who go away to college and then they aren't so successful, and then they have to come back home and perhaps readjust. Students often experience in dual enrollment some of those, they have their first college classes while they're still with mom and dad, and so there's some benefit to that. But really the big benefit to a collegiate high school is that these students are experiencing an accelerated pathway to a college degree or degrees. We've spent a lot of time talking with these students about what it means, though. This is a big responsibility. They're going to be taking college classes in 9th grade. So that meant a lot to me. As the academic vice president for a college, it was my job to make sure they understood what that meant. And so I spent a lot of time in these information sessions making sure students were aware of that responsibility and that they had the emotional and maturity to handle those courses. But the benefit is having that accelerated pathway, particularly for students who are planning to earn multiple degrees, moving down that pathway more quickly if they're going to earn a bachelor's degree or graduate degrees, getting along that pathway more quickly and earning them as dual credit, high school and college credit. There's financial savings obviously here for parents and students. And those are primarily the basics of our program. Mr. Anderson is going to talk a little bit more about it.
Thank you. As you can see, this is something we're very excited about at Orange Park High School, having these kids come in and be able to continue to build this relationship that we already have with St. Johns River. This is just a great opportunity here for our young people to excel and to benefit long term. With that being said, you might ask, how many people were addressed with this? We sent out over 800 letters to 8th graders across the junior high. We only accepted 60. All right, so we're sitting at 60. We're going to be sending those letters out. So obviously, there's that rigor involved that we're expecting these kids to excel. We want to see them really grow as individuals, of course, and really just become better people. And that's the great thing about high school being a part of this as well, because they're still going to have the opportunity at the high school experience. They'll still be able to participate in sports or band and extracurricular activities. We want them to be well-rounded young people because we want them to be wonderful adults and have opportunities that are endless. And this is a great opportunity for that. So building these relationships, and we just appreciate St. John's bringing us on board and look forward to that, fostering that relationship.
That's great. I do have one question. I saw you had questions up there. How is this integrated into their normal daily schedule, or is this in addition to their already normal daily schedule that they have?
It is integrated into it. So the great thing is they'll be taking some of those college courses that they're taking. It will also include, they'll be doing online, so that'll be their online graduation requirement or their fine arts, etc. So it merges very well together.
Okay.
But it is that rigorous schedule. They're going to have to step up to the plate.
Okay.
But it does replace some of their high school, it's dual enroll, so it does replace some of their high school graduation requirements. It's not necessarily in addition. So like when they're taking Comp 1, that can replace their high school English.
I gotcha. Okay. Great. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the senior year is the only year that they'll have to provide their own transportation to the college?
Correct.
All the other classes will be taken at our high school?
At Orange Park High School or online.
Okay.
And this is not going to replace the traditional dual enrollment that Orange Park High School students are. There are other Orange Park High School students who have already always engaged in dual enrollment, and that program is going to continue.
Terrific. Thank you.
Could we get a copy of that presentation?
Thanks.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation, and last and certainly not least, Mrs. Kathy Schofield is going to give us a presentation on instructional materials adoption process, and this was something that I had requested specifically. So I appreciate you so much for taking the time to put this together and bring this to the board. Thank you.
So I need my glasses to see the computer, but not to see you. So it's those 40 eyes, if you haven't woken up and gotten them yet. And so anyhow, I would like to give you a very brief presentation tonight on how the instructional materials process works here in Clay County and how it ties into the statutes that are in place that we implement as part of this process. So just as an overview, we're going to talk about what the state requires, what the cycle says we should be doing, how the funds are used, and then how we take and customize that process here in Clay. And I know I'm giving you the 20,000-foot view tonight, so if you have further questions, I'd be glad to come back at another time. So the key components of what we do is basically we look at what statute says, and the statute is very specific in how they delineate what the roles are of the superintendent, the school board, the district instructional materials manager, the school principals, right down to what the students' and parents' responsibilities are with the textbooks. And so we're charged with properly using that funding. It is categorical funding, and the funds that we receive go not just to what you would think of as the traditional books, but also our dual enrollment funding comes out of there. There's a small amount that goes for replenishing science consumables. There's a reading allocation and ESE allocation, and any charter schools in the district also get a % of those funds based on their FTE. Now, what are instructional materials? A lot of times people will call and say, can I buy this with those funds? Well, the answer is the instructional materials are what you would consider to be the major tool for any particular course. So that means it could be a traditional textbook, it could be online components, digital materials, could be manipulatives, kits, lab equipment, even books that they're reading, and I don't mean that how that came out, but even class sets of library type books that you wouldn't normally think of as a traditional textbook. So many things can go into that. And in the corner there, there's a picture of our policy manual, which you can access from our instructional resources website. So you're probably wondering, how do we decide what we're buying on any given year? Well, our typical adoption cycle lasts for 5 years. So when we buy books, we're looking at a 5-year commitment. And that cycle is set by the Department of Education. They tell us basically what courses we'll adopt for during what years. Presently, this year, we're adopting for CTE, which I'll tell you is like running 50 adoptions. And we are also doing American Sign Language this year. Last year, we had Spanish was our major adoption. The other one going on right now is elementary music. Next year, we go into social studies. So this time next year, we will be in the process of wrapping up the adoption cycle and making the recommendation for what we should adopt for our social studies curriculum. The following year, we'll look at science, then math, then English language arts, and then the cycle will start again. Now, when you look at the use of the funds that were allocated, you may have heard people talk about 50% has to be this, 50% has to be that. So this matrix up here just kind of shows you that on that top row, at least half of the materials we adopt, or half of the money we spend, has to be going towards either blended or digital resources, and the other half can be your traditional textbooks. So what the state is doing is having us shift our focus and move more towards that digital learning environment by telling us at least half the funds have to go to digital. And you saw through last year's legislative cycle that there was a lot of talk about local control of curriculum, and they had actually talked about doing away with the state level adoption process, and that was not approved, which was really a good thing, because what happens is the major publishers submit their materials to the Department of Education, and the Department of Education gets teacher committees and subject matter experts to review the materials at the state level. Once they're reviewed at the state level, they go on to what they call the state list. Well, half of what we spend out of our categorical money must be spent, at least half, on things that are on the state list. That way we're sure that we're getting vetted resources that have been through that process. And the remaining up to that 50% threshold can be for things which have not been on the state list. So you may see or hear about, is that on the state list? Well, yes or no. And if it's not, be assured that we go through a process to vet those materials and make sure that they are meeting the needs here of our Clay County students, as well as making sure that we're in compliance with the state statutes. So what do we do here? There's a process where first the state calls for the adoption on certain courses. As I mentioned, the publishers who are interested submit their bid to the state, and that's where we start. We start with the state list, and we reach out to the publishers who are submitting materials, and we ask for samples. Then we establish committees to review the materials here. And it's been done different ways over time. What we've done now is we've looked at trying to represent all the schools. And so when we go into an adoption, we would ask for one representative for in elementary, for instance, representing K-3 in an adoption, and another for the intermediate, because we want both of those voices at the table. Those representatives would come together, they'd review the materials, they would see a presentation from the publisher, whether that's presented on a video that they submit to us or a physical presentation. Then they'd go back to their school and build consensus, and then that committee would come back and vote, and we would look for consensus. That same process will apply if you're looking at a course in a high school, or if you're looking at a grade level in junior high, a grade level subject area like English, language arts, or mathematics. Now, the part that y'all also see that's been new is now the legislation says that twice we have to bring the public through a public hearing where they can come and comment on the materials or say what they'd like to say about them. We, in my office area, we have a period of time where those materials would be available for public examination. And thus far, since that's gone into place, we've adopted Spanish, elementary music, CTE, and ASL, which have not been of great interest to the public. But I'm expecting next year, going into social studies, that we will have a lot more interest. So this presentation is timely because next year will be, I think, a lot more input. Then once we go through that process and narrow down to what the committee recommends, then we make the recommendation to the board, and then you approve it or disapprove it, and then we move forward and order materials with the intent of having everything in the classrooms for the start of school. This is just, I'll share this presentation with all of you, but this just pulls out some of the statutes that apply to some of the processes I talked about, especially the newer ones. And we do maintain a website, and on the website you can find a list of all of the currently adopted instructional materials by course and grade level. That's just a piece of it to show you what it looks like, but there's tabs across the bottom historically that'll show you what we adopted in a given year. You can see the comings and goings of the adoptions. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or if there's something you want to know more about, I can also address that for you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Studdard.
On the committees, when you said when the committees are formed, who serves on those committees?
Those are teachers that serve on the committees. What we do is we have each of the schools has one of their administrators who serves as the instructional materials administrator for the school. Our office reaches out to them and asks for a recommendation for that committee, and then we pull those people in that way. Now this year, I'm just going to tell you, is completely different because we're adopting for CTE. So we may have 3 schools that have a given course, or we may have one school with one person teaching that course. So this year we've worked very closely with Charisse and Alice Polk to determine how to structure those committees so that everyone has a voice. And some of the courses where there's only been 3 teachers district-wide, we've just let them all work together and come to collaboration. So this year, my first year, it's like doing 50 adoptions, and they're all very different. But for next year, when we're adopting a core content area, we'll work through the instructional materials administrator and then have the committee made up of one from each school. Everyone else will still get to see the materials, samples. The state has said that we can do all digital sampling or we can send samples to the schools, and the teachers still prefer to actually have the books to look at. So we've accommodated them, and every school will have a set of everything that's being considered so everyone can see it.
So this committee, like, how big is the committee?
And so what we'll end up with this year is, depending on, like, for instance, if we're looking at U.S. history, there'll be 7 on that committee, 1 from each high school. The elementary committee will be bigger because we will actually have someone from intermediate and someone at primary looking at those materials. We used to do 10 people or 6 people or 8 people, and what we really have found is a lot of people aren't getting the same voice and the same opportunity to really understand what the materials are all about. So we kind of developed a more inclusive practice, and like I said, this year you really haven't seen it per se because we're in very non-traditional adoptions.
Okay, I'm just trying to get this in my mind. Okay, so you say you're doing reading, whatever year. So you'd have 7 reading teachers.
If it was, well, that would be, I was referring to U.S. history for high school, so we have 7 high schools, so there'd be 1 U.S. history teacher. When we go into reading, elementary reading
Right.
per se.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, in the initial screening, we would have 1 person from every school come in the primary grade band and then in the intermediate grade band to review those materials in depth, see the presentations, and be able to go back to their school and work with the other teachers to discuss the materials, to come to consensus, to ask more questions, and explore.
And that's where I was going, is I wanted to know from this committee, do they go back to their schools so that the teachers out in the schools would have some input into it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so then this committee gets back together. Wait. This committee then gets back together, and do they decide then which material is going to be used, or that they're going to recommend to come to the
They'll
board?
recommend, and as I said, this is a different process than what's been done historically. In the past, we had Lisa Jones actually did an application to get 6 or 8 or 10 people who were going to be serving on that committee. But when her and I kind of debriefed before she retired on what some of the strengths of that way were versus some of the weaknesses, I came to the kind of conclusion that having them from each school will give them a broader opportunity for everyone to really have the same amount of input. And then we would take that vote, and, you know, unless there was something else that showed up when they submitted their sealed bid or something that would prohibit us from going with that recommendation, that would be what we would recommend to you.
Okay. Now, before it comes to the board, though, I think I saw on the chart, in some part of the process, you have parental input. And how does that fit in after the committee has...
Yes, and so that's in the new cycle that'll be coming up. What will occur is we'll solicit some kind of a parent to actually come in and sit in on that publisher presentation and be able to weigh in. And that's new, so we haven't implemented that yet.
Excuse me. And I realize it's changing a little bit from
It
the way
is.
it's been done over
Yes.
the years, and so I wanted to clearly understand, because I probably am not the only board member that had some phone calls and complaints about some of our reading materials. And I was just wondering exactly how the process works, and is there parental input? And of course, those of us who look at social media, there's always those people that say we're teaching horrible things to our children, and I want to make sure that, you know, we've got the process in place, that we're not teaching horrible things to our children.
Yes, ma'am. And with the new statutes that have come into effect, and when we move into this next traditional cycle, which is that social studies cycle, we will be incorporating that community voice, the parent voice. And again, anyone who ever asks now to come in and look at anything, we open the doors, but there'll be the opportunity for them to engage with and see the materials.
And that was my concern. I just wanted to make sure that all of the teachers are going to have a voice in it, and that the parents can have a voice in it too.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, we're new legislation, and when I go to my state meeting, everyone discusses how we should best implement some of these things. So we're all learning together as we're trying to build the new process to make sure that there's local control over the curriculum, making sure that we're meeting the state requirements. And I'm always open to ideas. You know, being new in the role, I'm happy for suggestions, and we'll always, you know, think about the best way to make sure that we have the voices we need at the table.
One of the thoughts that I had, and I guess it goes to the question of parental involvement in the selection, not just being able to inspect it, because I know you mentioned here that those materials are made available for public inspection, but have we ever given consideration to allowing parent representation from the community to actually sit on the committee? And as we were just sitting here, I was thinking maybe more over somebody from the district advisory committee could be on that, because that's typically, we have, those are all community representatives from the district advisory committee. So maybe somebody from that committee who represents the community could sit on that committee, and then that way they could take what they've seen and learned back to the district advisory committee, and then they can go out to the community, and it can kind of, you know, there's a connection there.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a great idea, and I think that I'll go back and discuss it with Mr. Umbaugh and see what he thinks of how we could best incorporate that and make sure that we are getting the voice, because I'd rather have the voices up front than have the complaints afterwards.
Perfect. Ms. Karakas, you had a question.
I did. I noticed up there you had that you would be putting out a public notice and having a public meeting. Explain that to us. Is it per topic, or is it once a year, or when?
And so what we do is we advertise in the paper that we're considering these materials for adoption, and you would have seen it 2 times this year. The first time, and I think that was what prompted some of the questions, was first we came to the board to ask for approval to advertise, and then you granted the permission to advertise, and then we moved forward with asking permission to adopt materials.
It was the music. It was last month, and it was the music curriculum, and there was one other item on there. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Did you have a question, Ms. Gilhausen?
I do. You know, we've had a couple of charter schools submit applications over the last few years, and when we're talking about the restrictions that the state puts on what we can spend as far as textbook material, do the charter schools have to abide by that as well when it comes to 50% being on digital materials and 50% being the state approved?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I can find that out and let the board know. I do know that when they have their FTE numbers, that our finance division allocates some of those dollars over to them, but I have not gone that deep into how they have to spend their money. I would assume that they have to follow the laws since it is state categorical money, but I would have to read and verify that for you.
Okay. And then one other question. Once a curriculum is adopted, is it the same at every school? Because I've heard that different schools are using different math curriculum. You may see different homework in one kid's backpack at one school versus another. So is it consistent across the schools, or how do we implement that?
Okay, so the idea is that we would have the major tool be consistent across the district, and we work to try to have that consensus, but we know that the schools also need to supplement because we teach standards, not a book. So the book is provided as the main thing that we would like them to be using, but there's always supplemental resources and decisions that our teachers make as to what resource might meet best the needs of their students. So you will see some variation. Other things you'll see, like in math in junior high, for instance, the honors classes have adopted one math book as their major tool. The standard classes have adopted another book. And let's say Ms. Smith is teaching both sections, she might know that this may work really well to reach these children. So they may interchange some of those resources in those cases. We don't want to ever tell teachers you have to use this and only this. We want them to be able to do what they know is best for the kids in their rooms.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question a follow-up question based on that.
One more before
Yeah,
we...
but it was on that subject, so.
Mine too.
Okay.
I promise this is my last one. So in the case that we're using supplemental materials or something that's different from what's published, like you said, on the website where you show all the different textbooks that are being used, is there a way that we could involve parents in knowing the books or the videos that their child will possibly be viewing or have in their hands throughout the school year? Can that be like a submission that the parents get at the start of the year? These are the books and the videos that we plan to show.
And that's really difficult for me to answer because we with these dollars, we're trying to adopt a uniform major tool, but there's a lot of choices that teachers have. For instance, we have the Discovery streaming, which has probably tens of thousands of resources, and we count on the teachers to know what they need for their children, and they do wonderful jobs of finding the best resources for the particular content. So it would be difficult to do that, especially when we're differentiating instruction. Kids might be stuck here, and a teacher might go and work to find something to help fill that gap. So I don't know that I would be able to do that. Not from the district level in any event.
Ms. Condon?
So on your, when you talk about the selection of the curriculum and the textbooks, and then the schools can supplement in the ways that they want to, I guess my first question would be, if we have selected a curriculum that is comprehensive, that meets the state standards, why do we need to spend additional money to supplement? And then my add-on to that is, how is that paid for at the different schools? Because my concern is that some schools may be allocated more money and can provide additional resources, and then we've just made inequities in the education that we've provided to those students.
Yes, ma'am. So part of the categorical allocation that we get is called growth and maintenance. And in those growth and maintenance funds, what we do is we roll out to the schools based on their FTE an equal amount per student, and the instructional materials manager at the school uses that money for a couple of purposes. One of the purposes being, let's say they had more students and a different school didn't have less, so they couldn't get the adopted resource, but they are also permitted to get some supplemental resources out of those funds. So since it's distributed based on FTE, they're getting a proportionately equitable amount compared to the number of kids that are in the building. Did that answer your question?
I'm not following you.
Okay. So let's say Fleming Island High School versus a small elementary school. Fleming Island High School has say 1,000 kids, let's just say, and if it was $5 per FTE, they would get $5,000 in their growth and maintenance fund, which is out of that categorical money that they can use for adopted curriculum or supplemental resources. But a smaller school, let's say they have 300 kids, they would get the same $5 per kid, but it would be $1,500 that they would get because it's proportionate to the number of kids that are attending the school.
So we do have the inequities that I said.
In dollars, I would say yes, because that's
But
the
dollars
formula.
by resources. And I happen to live in the end of the county that's much less populated. And so of the 5 schools that are in the district, which I know I represent countywide, but the 5 schools that I get a lot of parent phone calls from, it's not the same if you go to Keystone Heights High School versus if you go to Fleming Island High School, because they have 4 times the students, so they have more to buy those supplemental
Right, and
resources.
I think the thinking behind it, though, is that they're buying, if they're buying a resource per child, that they would have less children that they were having to provide that particular resource to.
It
So
sounds
if-
proportional to me.
Yeah, it's proportional is how the allocation.
Only if it's only for one subject. But it's not if you don't, in some of our schools, we don't even offer the same subjects. So it's really not proportional.
So you're in high school where there's the more varied courses. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't
Or if you're
say-
buying a classroom set of books and you have one of our larger elementary schools, you can buy more classroom sets of books because it's based on all the students in the elementary school, not based on one grade level. So you can serve more classrooms with book sets. I'm picturing these bins that the teachers carry from our libraries, and they take a whole set of books so that each student can use one. You're serving, for instance, if you're at Poe, you have 2,000 times $5 per kid.
Right.
You can buy a lot more sets of books than at even some of our smaller schools.
Yes, and you're absolutely correct. That's true. And the way those funds are sent to us is per FTE, and we've always used that formula to allocate it that way. I'm not saying because that's what we always did, that's what we have to do, but what I'll need to do is just go back and look at the statute and see if it specifies the way that those funds are rolled to the schools. So I'll take that as an action item to check on that and see if we have flexibility to do it a different way. I don't know off the top of my head, though. But it is a good point. It's a very good point.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schofield. I really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That was the last of our presentations. We are going to move into our discussion agenda, and so I'll make the last call for speaker cards. If anybody else has any cards that they'd like to turn in to speak, now would be the time to do so. Okay. Ladies, everybody okay? Anybody need a break? Everybody good? Okay. All right. With that, we will move into our discussion items. The first item up, D1, is the superintendent's update. Mr. Van Zandt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have 2 quick things for you tonight. One, 2 weeks ago, we held a reception at Orange Park High School, invited the press, did kind of a press conference and celebration. We had a great year in terms of fixed capital outlay funding coming from the Florida Legislature to Clay County. We asked for, based on the board's legislative priorities, fixed capital outlay funding to expand our academy opportunities in Clay. That was your number 1 priority on your legislative priorities. And we also asked for permanent funding, reoccurring funding to be instituted for our military-connected kids based on the acreage. About 19% of Clay County land is Camp Blanding, Florida. We were successful with the help of great collaboration between our legislative delegation, our advocate and lobbyist Southern Strategies, and our business community. A lot of people worked together. A lot of people went to Tallahassee. A lot of our business community that is partnered with our academies wrote letters to the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, the Chairman of Ed Appropriations in the House, the Chairman of Ed Appropriations in the Senate, to Governor Scott, to their appropriations staff, and together, all of us pulling the wagon in the same direction, we were able to achieve $1 million that will be coming to Clay County to upgrade our academies. As you know, we've gone from 16 to 30 academies with our wall-to-wall Academies of Clay initiative, so that'll do things on our facilities list, like make the Culinary Arts Academy at Middleburg High School, buy the commercial kitchen equipment, do those things, and that'll go across the gamut. It'll help us. Each year we establish a project list of projects that require capital outlay, another one of those categorical funding items like Ms. Schofield was just talking about, and we work down our list till we run out of money for that year, and then that's where we have to stop. So this will let us get $1 million more, if you will, down that list. So that was certainly something to celebrate. Last year, when we came out of the 2015 legislative session, us and 5 other counties with large land masses connected to federal military installations were given non-reoccurring funding. To us, it equated to a little over $500,000 for Camp Blanding, which does not fall under our normal ad valorem tax revenue. So through education appropriations, they carved out some money to help equalize us for that amount of Clay County that isn't taxed on the property tax rolls. So again, with the help of a whole lot of people, we were able to turn that from non-reoccurring funding to reoccurring funding, so we won't have to go up there and fight hard and advocate hard for that. Unless something really unravels, we will continue to get that. So both of those things together put us in about $1.5 million better position towards some capital projects this next year. So we're very thankful for that. We had the press corps. I don't know if these gentlemen over here to my right were there. It got some great coverage on television. The newspapers covered it. So we were real thankful. I appreciate the board members that were able to come, and staff, and Orange Park High School Culinary Academy hosted it. The kids that spoke kind of related what that means back to them, and that was a great time. Any questions on any of that? Also, we wanted to update you tonight on our community advisory council, and I'm going to ask District Advisory Council. In 1987, when I served on as a student, it was the Community Advisory Council of the Clay County School Board. So my roots run deep with all this. But Ms. Cornegie, if you would introduce that topic for us.
Sure. I've had the pleasure working alongside our newly formed District Advisory Council over the past several months, and the opportunity to get to know some wonderful parents and community members who are very dedicated to school and district improvement. So tonight, as one of their responsibilities, they were to give the superintendent and the board a quarterly update. So I'd like to introduce Carol Ann Freehofer. She is a parent representing District 1, and she has volunteered to come and give you our first quarterly update. So welcome, Carol Ann.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the people in the audience who don't know, especially the parents, we're a newly formed district advisory committee, and we just, I believe, were appointed in October. We had our first introductory meeting in January, and we've been busy every month since. In January, Ms. Cornegie gave us a wonderful introduction and education on the background of what the board and the district have been up to. And at that time, I think a majority of the 15 members were there. And for the parents who don't know, we are complete volunteers in an advisory position only. And what we are tasked with is facilitating communication between the parents, the school's advisory council or committee at their school, and the board and the superintendent. So we're trying to take every opportunity we can to tell parents this is a direct line of communication for issues that you have with your school or concerns. So when you see those notices come out, we hope everybody participates and starts showing up, and your voices will be heard better that way. So at the January meeting, we did two things. We took several hours to decide what the first 2 topics would be and how often we would meet. And we figured quarterly at first, so we'd have a meeting in February and another one in May. Because FSA was timely, we decided to get ourselves a good, quick education on the fundamentals of the FSA. So February's meeting was dedicated to that. But just prior to that, as everybody here knows, there was a community assembly in the Oakleaf area, and with the redistricting and proposals. And the ladies from that district were very instrumental in helping the parents get their concerns across and facilitating that. So even before our first meeting, that was already in place in February. So then we had our first meeting. Dr. Weiskopf came and gave an excellent education to all of us. And we did that at the Middleburg High School. And what was really fantastic about that, I'm a parent. Each district of the 5 districts has one parent that's a volunteer for elementary, one for junior and high school, and one community leader. And so we have three volunteers for each of the 5 districts. So we are all parents, and we got to sit down and take a practice test on the computers. And I bow down to the teachers who administer them and to the children who take them. So, and I thank Deputy Superintendent Cornegay for letting us have that fabulous opportunity to better educate our parents on how this is happening, how and why, and all that. We were so impressed with what we learned and wanted to share it that we set up a district-wide meeting following that. And that happened in March, and that happened here because we didn't know how many people we would get. We'd like to do it in the future earlier, but since we just formed in January, that was a quick move and to get the ball rolling. And so we had a nice showing, and we threw it out district-wide. It started in District 1, and Dr. Weiskopf came to that, Superintendent or Deputy Superintendent Cornegay, and I was thrilled, I have to say this, from Fleming Island Elementary School. The principal, Dana Archibald, came. The vice principal came, Ms. Marks, and one of the teachers gave up her time to come that evening, Ms. Larson. And what was wonderful about that is the people who came from that school, we had people from all over, they got to speak directly with their principal, their vice principal, a long-term teacher, and Dr. Weiskopf. And it was, I think, in navigating between the 15 of us, what are we doing? What is our purpose? How are we going to attain that? And it's really just to open these lines of communications and to see all of them answering questions for quite a long time after the meeting. As you can imagine, it was a fantastic opportunity. So the people who were here were able to voice their concerns and just to relate them to the board. As far as assessment is concerned, probably the major one was the length of testing. There was several parents here that were representing the option to not take the test, and they wanted that clearly stated to the other parents who were here. And so we appreciated that voice was also being able to be heard. And they wanted to know directly from the district possible steps in eliminating, or how they would go about in advocating the elimination of the testing. And there were also some that wanted to know what would happen specifically to their child if they opted out. And we also had parents here who were new to the state of Florida, and we had some parents, which were great, that their child will not take the test in next year, but they were interested parents and they wanted to hit the ground running. So that was, I think, a great start. Following that, we have our second meeting on May 4th. And that one has turned into really what's going to be another sort of workshop. And Dr. Legutko is going to be there to speak to our second issue, which was school and district budgeting. and getting the parents involved in how the budgeting is being proposed, and also to get them to perhaps have greater involvement in setting the process and its strategic plan for the next school year, 2016-2017. And since that had been set, not only is Dr. Legutko going to be here, and this meeting is on May 4th in this room at 6:30, but also Dr. Hamilton is coming down from Panama City. And so parents have a wonderful opportunity to speak with the people who can best educate us on how the decisions are made on budgeting and why. And if they have concerns or input that could really be useful and enlightening, then we're encouraging everybody to come to that. It's open to all. And Mrs. Cornegay we're going to be working on a flyer and getting that out, and it'll go on the app. And one final thing is we do now have at the district level on the website, there is a tab that you can click on, District Advisory Committee, and you can get all the information that's provided at each of these parent workshops. And it's available to all now. And if the parents have the app, they get the alert that that open house is happening. So we're going to conclude our year with the May 4th meeting and then go forth deciding how we're going to facilitate the next parent workshop on that. Thank you. If
Thank
have
you
any
very
questions.
much. I think that's outstanding.
Very good.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes. Yep. Ms. Karakis?
I have a question for Ms. Cornegay. It sounds like they're doing a great job and they're covering a lot of important information. Is it possible when they have their meetings that they could be videotaped and archived on our website just like our school board meetings are, so that parents who don't have the opportunity to attend would still be able to watch and learn and listen?
That is something we can certainly consider. Right now it's been a location issue, and we're meeting in classrooms and places, but when this room is available and we have greater access to technology, we can certainly look at doing that.
Well, we do have that TV production studio that maybe we could recruit somebody from, and they could actually videotape each one of them. Possibly.
You know, I would just offer this thought. We asked people to sign up for that. Not everybody really wants to be on TV. So, you know, a lot of our teachers, we ask when they're doing great lessons, hey, can we video this and show it to your colleagues? And they're on the payroll and don't even want to do it. So I'm just saying we're going to need to survey the district advisory committee and see if they really want to do that.
Well, ask them, but it sounds like it's great information that they're obtaining, and it would really be very useful to a lot of the parents that just don't have the time, or are not available for whatever reason. So I think if we're going to have this group, it might be something to look at.
I think the idea is, the incentive is to get folks to come. Yeah, so, okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, fantastic. Okay. The next item up is item D2, Human Resources. I know on the agenda that's posted it says special action A, but on my agenda it says we don't have any. So just for clarification, there is no special action A on the agenda. Okay. Moving into item number 3, D3, which is the fiscal year audit 2014-2015. I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Condon. And I believe this is just a motion to accept it. So we're not approving it really. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. The next item up was item C32. This was pulled from the discussion, or pulled from consent agenda, and this is C32, approve agreement with Wilson Education Center, and this was pulled by Ms. Karakis. Ms. Karakis. Well, first I'll entertain a motion, and then we'll bring it for discussion. Okay, we have a motion for approval by Ms. Karakis.
I'll second.
And a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Okay, Ms. Karakis?
I pulled this because I got a couple of phone calls about it. People were concerned. And I called Dr. Legutko, and we had a conversation about it. And after talking to her, she put, all the questions. She'd answered all my questions, and I thought, this is really a very positive thing that's happening, and it might be good to just explain it to our staff and community what the Wilson Education Center is going to do for us. And Dr. Legucco said she'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Dr. Legucco.
Hello.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. I have some notes here. The agreement with the Wilson Education Center is a partnership with the district school board, Clay County School Board, and it will allow the district the opportunity to increase and expand our buying power based on reduced prices and materials and supplies for the district. The last couple of weeks I've had some meetings with, of course, the principals and staff. And one of the things that I did mention is that we are trying to minimize the cost of some of our operations under business affairs. One of those operations is our warehouse, our supply warehouse. Please understand that that does not mean folks are losing their positions or anything. It is a slow closing down of the supplies that we do have in our warehouse. There are items in there that are that we can get at a reduced price. And that is one of the reasons why I sought out this opportunity for the district. What it does, of course, it allows us the opportunity for buying power for those supplies through a bid process. These bids will be under the Clay County School Board. It will give us the opportunity to look for reduced prices for the various supplies that we do use on a regular basis annually to operate our schools. What it also does for us, it allows other districts in the state of Florida to piggyback off of those bids that's under Clay County. Once the other districts purchase materials from that bid that's placed out under Clay County, the district stands to earn additional revenue. So it's a revenue stream for our district. And as you know, we are looking at all areas to save dollars, bring in revenue if we can, and be fiscally sound for all of our operations. With that, I wanted to also add that there is no cost to the district and there's minimal impact to the staff in our purchasing department. Of course, we have the authority on everything that is posted under the school district. We have the final approval on all those, but actually not us, but the school board has the final approval on those bids. The contract term, of course, is for 2 years, and we do have an out clause if we need to exercise that. The contract language also allows us for, if for any reason while we're looking for materials and supplies, and there are other materials and supplies that are a lot cheaper or less expensive than our own bids, we have the opportunity to actually go out and exercise piggyback off of another bid. So we do have that clause in our contract as well. Of course, this contract has been vetted by our attorney, and we looked at other vendors similar to this type of consortium, and the reason that we're using this particular vendor is the fact that it's providing us with that financial incentive for us to participate.
Thank you very much. I was impressed when Dr. Legucco explained this to me. I just want to commend her and Mr. Warnberg for coming, looking for this and finding it and looking for different ways to save, cut costs, but also increase revenue. And so hopefully this will be a win-win for us. And and I was pleased to hear that nobody was losing their job. Right. That was the very first question that was posed to me, and so I said, I'll call. So I appreciate you explaining it to everybody, because I think a lot of people, if they looked, they weren't really sure what this was. So thank you very much.
Okay, I had a motion for approval by Ms. Karakis and a second by Ms. Skillhausen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, all right, the next items up, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 items up that are all public hearings to approve as advertised the attendance boundaries for the 6 different schools that we had listed. So what I would like to do, in the interest of saving time, these are all public hearings. I'm going to open one public hearing, and then I will allow anybody who would like to speak will at each particular issue here. We'll go through them, one at a time, and then I will close the overall public hearing, and then we'll bring them back to the board, and we will vote on them individually. Okay? So I'm going to read them. They're items D4 through D9, and it's the public hearing to approve as advertised the attendance boundary for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Oakleaf Village Elementary School. The second one.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you need to gavel open before you do the public.
I was just going to read them first so that they knew what we were going through. The second one is the public hearing to approve as advertised, reclassify Argyle Elementary School from a pre-K to a 5th grade to a pre-K to 6th grade. The next one was the attendance boundaries for Rideout Elementary, Doctors Inlet Elementary, Patterson Elementary, Charles E. Bennett Elementary, and Lake Asbury Elementary. The next one was attendance boundaries for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Tynes Elementary. The next one was attendance boundary for Green Cove Springs Junior High, Wilkinson Junior High, and Lake Asbury Junior High. And then finally, last but not least, the attendance boundaries for Clay High and Middleburg High Schools. Okay, so those are all the ones that are all up for public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to allow anybody that would like to come and speak to the board on these. We'll start with the first one, which was Plantation Oaks Elementary and Oakleaf Village Elementary. Ms. Paiva.
Good evening. My question actually is for all of them. It's I'm curious on what's going to happen with the new statute that allows children, students to go from school to school as long as there's space and the schools are deemed open. And I was wondering what this board has thought about doing, especially because you can see a mass movement of athletes. You can see a mass movement of chorus people. You can see a mass movement of any of our special interests who believe that it's better in one school over another. So I wanted to know what the thought is on that when we're talking about redistricting and rezoning. And I also wanted to, I have a question probably for Ms. Cornegay or Mr. Merrill, I'm not sure. If a school is deemed closed, are they therefore closed for anybody, even people who move in that district? Or are they only closed for people coming from another area of that district? But it's kind of a rhetorical question because there won't be districts under the new statute, really, if they allow free movement. Anyway, what thought has been given? And, you were talking about zoning, but I really don't know under the new law if it even applies anymore or if there's any thought at all from our district or from the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. That's actually a great question. I mean, I know the bill just passed very recently, and I'm not even sure anybody's had time to absorb all of what that actually means. But if Mr. Van Zant wants to speak on it, you're free to give your thoughts on it. Yeah.
Again, I'd like to keep the public hearing to the rezoning in the 16-17 school year that we're in. That law that was just mentioned begins in 17-18. Us and other districts, it was just signed by the governor last Friday, will have to do some planning. The definitions haven't really been solidified on open and closed. We'll have to look at capacity issues, come up with our own way to do it. I'm sure each district will have some similarities and some differences in the way that they will do it, and yes, everybody is thinking about it. That's all I've got for tonight.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to any of these redistricting issues?
No?
Well, we're addressing Plantation Oaks right now.
We're addressing Plantation Oaks right now. Okay. If there's nobody else that would like to speak on Plantation Oaks, the next one is Argyle Elementary School. We're gonna let people speak first, and then we're gonna vote on them.
Well, you need to close it and have a vote on this one, and then open the public hearing on the next item.
I'm gonna have.
We can't vote for them all at one time.
I'm gonna have one public hearing and allow everybody to come and speak on each one, and then I will close the public hearing and we will vote on them one by one. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. Mr. Sykes, we're good? Okay, at this time I'm going to close the public hearing. Did you want to speak? Mr. Nichols, did you want to come and speak? Come on.
You have to open and close each one. We're doing one public hearing, we're going to let them all speak, and then we're going to close.
You all, and Keith Nichols, and of course my address is on the record, and you all probably know where this is going because I've said this probably about 30 times in the last 2 years. When you're doing the redistricting for Charles E. Bennett, I still don't see any place where Shadowlawn is being addressed in this. And we've got the kids that are over there in Penny Farms that would be a natural fit to go in there, and I'm just wondering why Shadowlawn is still hands off.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to any of the schools that are under redistricting? Okay, I am going to close the public hearing at this time. And I'm going to bring these back to the board one at a time for vote and approval. The first item is D4, the public hearing to approve as advertised the attendance boundaries for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Oakley Village Elementary School. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The second item is D5, the public hearing to approve as advertised, reclassifying Argyle Elementary School from a pre-K to 5th grade to a pre-K to 6th grade. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item is item D6, the public hearing to approve as advertised the attendance boundary for Rideout Elementary, Doctors Inlet Elementary, Patterson Elementary, Charles E. Bennett Elementary, and Lake Asbury Elementary Schools. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item is item D7, the public hearing to approve is to advertise the attendance boundary for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Tynes Elementary School. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval. I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item is item D8, the public hearing to approve as advertised the attendance boundaries for Green Cove Springs Junior High, Wilkinson Junior High, and Lake Asbury Junior High Schools. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen, a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And last but certainly not least, item D9, which is a public hearing to approve as advertised the attendance boundary for Clay High and Middleburg High Schools. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that is it for items for approval. The next item up is presentations from the audience. We do have several cards here, and so we'll begin. Miss Barbara McDermott.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Barbara McDermott. I live at 2123 Winterbourne West in Orange Park, Florida. Yes. I came to speak to you about an article that I saw in a Clay Leader. It was just published last April 15th, just this week. The task or working group that was referred to in there met during the week of March 22nd. Even when asked by another board member who these people were, there was no revelation. 15, quote, undisclosed district leaders or administrators included no school principals, and that was according to the article. I have no idea if that's true or not. I doubt that Ms. Carnegie had in mind any teachers for membership in this Sunshineless group, and I really wonder about how much money Mr. Hamilton made from that from the Clay County School District. Also for his work with the advisory group that we just heard from. I just thought I would share with you all a few ideas for saving money in Clay County School District. I'm just a teacher, so I am speaking to you from my daily experience with students in chemistry and physics at Orange Park High School. To start with, let's lighten their backpacks. My class back textbooks weigh between 6 and 9 pounds apiece, and wondering when CCSD just moves away from textbooks altogether. Our books now cost $80 to $180 each, and they're only good for 5 years, and honestly, the binding is so bad, I'm wondering if we're going to make it through 5 years. They're just really, really horrible quality. We're also looking at hopefully moving toward tablets or iPads, getting everything into e-books, putting it all in something that a kid can carry around in an envelope or on a cell phone. So this is what I'm really, really looking forward to. And bringing all these devices into the classroom, working very hard on getting the technology up to date. These kids are going to use it in their workplace. Next, of course, we have lost Blackboard, and we're leaving Microsoft very soon to get over to Google. And this huge saving is hopefully going to include some official involvement of plagiarism checking, because we lost that with Blackboard. So if you would please consider that, I would appreciate it. If you ever need any other suggestions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't see the article in the media, but I can tell you this. I do know out of everything you just said, Mr. Hamilton's service is provided through the Florida Association of School Superintendents and Florida School Boards Association. He doesn't take any money for any of that except for whatever those associations pay him. Ms. Studdard's school board participation predates mine, but I know in the 18 years I've been on one or the other, we've always belonged to both. So that's nothing extra. That's just a service they offer by those two associations that your 6 elected officials belong to.
Okay. The next card up is Liz Crane.
That's supposed to be here. Oh, okay. Thank you. Liz Crane, you have my address for the record. Jab, 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 right hook. Good evening. This month, one of my students had some successes. This young boy, Ricardo, entered my classroom shy, scared, and unsure of himself. He still is shy and from time to time unsure of himself. Ricardo is young as far as kindergartners go and immature. He did not come in knowing all of his letters, sounds, and numbers. When other children were practicing their counting in class, he played with his shoes. When other children were practicing their reading, he would make telescopes out of his books. It is known in kindergarten that Santa sometimes brings more than toys and treats to young children's homes. He sometimes brings the gift of maturity. Ricardo was fortunate to receive this gift. In March, he began to show an interest in reading instead of paper telescopes and began counting with his classmates. By this time, I had 5 students reading AR books, and some of the children were noticing, including Ricardo. I asked him one day, "Would you like to make a goal to read an AR book this year?" He replied, "Yes." I explained to him we would have to work very hard, and he couldn't spend his time playing around and talking. I told him that I would work with him to get him there as long as he did the work. He said, "Okay. All right then, let's get started." The hard work was beginning to pay off. In math, he continued to practice, and this week he mastered counting to 100 by 1s, 2s, 5s, and 10s. And he was able to write his name on the poster to indicate this with his classmates. I am looking forward to when he reads his first AR book and taking his AR quiz. He has a long way to go, but I'm confident he will get there. Earlier this week, I was very dismayed when I received an email that said, and I quote, "Once this matter is resolved, we can return our focus and efforts to where they matter most, building on our recent accomplishments as an A-rated district," etc., etc. Excuse me? We can return our focus and efforts? I'm sorry. When do we lose our focus and effort? If I was not focused, this child would not be making the gains he's making. If I did not give full effort, I would not have 6 students all on Accelerated Reader, 1 student who's read over 20,000 words. I will have 8 students on AR next week. If I was not focused, I would not have almost every student's name on the counting poster. How dare anyone apply that I lost my focus or effort due to the district union negotiations? How dare anyone imply that any teacher in this county lost their focus? Our teachers are hardworking and extremely generous. No one should state that we need to return our focus and efforts. We never lost our focus and efforts. Understand this, the educators of this county are the backbone of this district. Without us, we would not be an A district. Without us, we would not be winning Jim Harbin awards. Without us, we would not be the only district in the state with wall-to-wall academies. We should not be treated like children and told we need to return our focus and efforts to what matters most. We should be appreciated because we never lost our focus, nor did we lessen our efforts.
Mr. Fred Gottschalk.
Good evening. I'm Fred Gottschalk, 429 Madeira Drive, Orange Park. I'd like to talk a little bit about history. Christopher Columbus said, "I had dialogue, dealings, and conversations with learned people, clergymen, laymen, Latins and Greeks, Jews and Moors, and with many other sects." He continues, "I found our Lord very well disposed with this, my desire, and he gave me the spirit for it." His quest was to find new lands. Columbus goes on to say, "He prepared me in seamanship and supplied me with the necessary tools in astronomy, as well as geometry and arithmetic, and the ingenuity of manual skill to draw spherical maps which show cities, rivers, and mountains, islands and ports, everything in its proper place." Columbus also asserts the directing hand of God through the publication of his Book of Prophecies some 10 years later. In his quest to find new lands, he researched the Holy Scriptures and anything else he could get his hands on. He goes on to say the sciences were no help. It was during this period that the scientists believed that the earth was flat. Genesis 1:2 says that the earth was formless. Genesis 1:16 says, "God made 2 lights, the greater to have dominion over day, the lesser to have dominion over night." Columbus saw the same thing we see when we look up. 2 big round balls. Formless. Why would God then make them round and the earth flat? Where did the sun go if the world was flat? Wouldn't it rise in the same place it set if the world was flat? Columbus' studies of seamanship, he learned that the moon affected the tides and winds. He was laughed and scoffed at. The statement of Columbus was fantastic when he said, I attest that he, the Holy Spirit, with marvelous rays of light, consoled me through the holy and sacred scriptures and strong and dear testimony. He continues, our Lord wanted to perform the clearest work of providence in this matter. Columbus further stated, yet the outcome was to be the fulfillment of whatever a Redeemer, Jesus Christ, said through the mouths of the prophets. And so the prophecy has been made manifest. In closing, I will say it is scientifically impossible for anyone to say that they are atheists because there is no God. First, in order to say that factually, they would have to have all knowledge. Only God has all knowledge, and He wrote this book, not Dr. Seuss. We are a Christian nation, and we will better start acting like it.
Thank you, Mr.
One more thing. We ought to do away with those big assault buses. We just sent 28 kids to the hospital. We got to get those big orange things assault buses out of the schools and away from our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschalk.
Renalee Paiva.
Renalee Paiva, and you have my address. Couple things. What I was just saying about rezoning, I know that rezoning, that's not happening for another year. But I would like to see, and the reason I wanted to direct that to the school board is I would like to see us proactive in it. I don't want us to see us sitting here, and I have a feeling I might be sitting here next spring reactionary to, especially when you look at the rezoning of OVE and Poe. I'm not sure. You know that we're going to get an influx there big time, and I'd like to see us at least maybe come up with some new ideas like having a collaborative team effort in maybe looking at this stuff. So that was the reason I said it, not to, it gets, told that, oh, well, that's not for another year, we'll wait till then. My second thing is being I've been the subject of media lately, and so I'm really curious in productions and how productions happen, especially making films and making videos and posting them. So I was curious to see on our One Clay Facebook account that we have some productions going up, and every time a production goes up, I always watch it all the way to the end because I'm curious on who's producing it and why. And I see at the end of our productions, the productions say Van Clay Production. And I would like to know what Van Clay Production is. Like, who is Van Clay Productions that's producing our videos that we're posting on Facebook and also on our website? So I'd like some insight in that. I'm just curious on who the genius is that's doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. Laura Mayberry.
Before we go further, does
yeah.
anybody have an answer to that question?
Did you say Van Play or Van Clay?
Van Clay Productions.
Okay.
Anybody know who that is?
Nope, I don't.
Could somebody find out and let us know?
Maybe Mr. Van Zandt.
Mr. Van Zandt, do you have an answer for us? You're the superintendent.
Of all the things, I know y'all think me and Al Gore collaborated on the internet and how to produce films, but that, of all the things I can do, that's not my wheelhouse, but I'll ask about that.
Maybe Mr. Hendricks knows.
We can actually answer that question for you. That was produced in our instructional materials department by the young lady that works over there in Kathy Schofield's department that does some of our media productions. And her last name is Van Geisen? Van Gestem. Okay. So that was her production, and that's thus the just coincidental that it is no relation to you. No, she's one of our hardworking folks over in that department who does a lot of videos and some of our communications.
Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you.
Van Gustin or something.
Becca Van Geisen.
What?
We just call her Becca.
Go ahead, Ms. Mayberry.
Laura Mayberry, Clay County teacher. My address is on file. A couple of days ago, I put together a master calendar of all the state and county mandated tests that are scheduled for my school this year, and I provided copies for each of the school board members. Out of 180 school days, my high school has at least one standardized test being given on 114 of those days. 114 days, and it makes me sick. And more importantly, it's stealing whatever love of learning our kids have left. And I use the word stealing intentionally because high-stakes testing is nothing but theft. It is robbing me of time with my students. It is robbing taxpayers of money that could be better spent somewhere else. And it is robbing my students of their confidence and their ability to experience real learning and success. A few months ago, one of my seniors came into class very upset. And this was a new experience for me because usually that's how they leave. But she told me that she had just failed a state test retake by 1 point and she was scared that she couldn't graduate. And this very sweet student next to her said, "Don't worry, you can still get a certificate of completion and walk with us." And the first student slammed her fists on the table and she said, "I don't want a stupid certificate of completion. I have worked my butt off for 12 years and I want my diploma." And I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that kid. And she was 17, and we're doing this to 7-year-olds. So if a 17-year-old can't handle it, I don't know how a 7-year-old can. I'm very fortunate to work with a group of amazing administrators, guidance counselors, and teachers. But for 114 days, our real jobs are put on hold to usher kids to testing labs, proctor tests, track kids down who don't show up for their tests, and teach half a class because the other half are taking a test. And for 114 days, many of our computer labs are taken up, so I can't get in there with my classes. And you may say to yourself, well, it's not like these tests take all day. But for some of our kids with extended time, they do. And even if they're only testing for a couple hours, you try going back to 3 more classes and focusing and getting your work done after that. We are professionals, and we do not need 114 days of testing to know our students. We are sacrificing them on the altar of the almighty data, and this is abuse. And the very people that these kids are supposed to trust are the perpetrators. So I challenge the school board, what are you doing to stop it? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayberry. Our last card is Michelle Roberts.
Michelle Roberts, and my address is on file. Who am I? That was the title of the sermon given by my pastor this past Sunday morning, and it started me thinking. I am a dedicated ESE teacher who loves and enjoys going to work every single day. I am a teacher that devotes countless hours to designing engaging lessons for my children so that each of their needs are met. I am a teacher that, despite the lack of respect shown by this board, will continue to work hard for the children that I teach so that they can have their dreams come true. I am a national board certified teacher. I am a military child whose father served 22 years in the United States Navy. I am a product of the Clay County School District who went on to receive my educational degree from a Southern Baptist college in Mississippi. And I am an active member of my church, and I have a deep personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I am also a part of my professional organization, the Clay County Education Association. And not only am I a part of it, I am on the board of the directors, and I am on the bargaining team, and very proud of it. I am concerned and outraged about the comments that are being made on Facebook. Now, I'm not one that generally posts or looks on Facebook on a regular basis, unless it's football season and I'm congratulating my Crimson Tide on yet another
Go
win.
Tide. Yep.
So, and we have to congratulate quite a bit, don't we, Ms. Studdard? So, it upsets me when I do go on and I find derogatory comments about a group of people that I care deeply about, and that's my CCEA members. Many comments have been made about these members, and I want to comment on two of them. One being that they are domestic terrorists. As someone who had friends in those Twin Towers when they came down on September 11th, and someone who sat with a colleague who waited to hear from her sister who worked in the Pentagon on September 11th, I am deeply, deeply offended by that. As someone who has friends who have recently deployed and a father who served his country, I continue to be offended. To use those particular words are to strike fear in people, and teachers are not to be feared. We are your teachers. Why would you use words that would cause people to fear your teachers? Another comment, true Christians wouldn't be part of a union. Well, I'm not sure what to say other than that is a ludicrous statement. I have a very strong faith that continues to grow on a daily basis. And for someone to call that into question because I belong to my professional organization and stand up for the teachers of this district is appalling, especially when they don't even know me. This person doesn't know me or many of the people that I work with, and if she did, she would know some awesomely amazing Christians. These comments are divisive and hurtful. We talk about collaboration and working together. Well, I want to give you a great example of that. Nothing displays the ability of teachers to collaborate, work together, and show compassion to each other than this past week at my school. One of our school family members has lost a member of her family. And I'm going to try not to get emotional, but the call was put out to other schools for help and coverage so that we could be with that school member, our family, tomorrow as she lays to rest her loved one. Within hours, minutes actually, there were teachers and administrators who collaborated together and came up with ways that they could send coverage to our school, that we are fully covered and still have more should we need it. That is a true vision of collaboration and working together, and that's what we need to strive for on a daily basis. So why the need for hurtful and divisive comments that continue to tear us apart? Shouldn't we be focusing on how to work together and enhance the quality education that Clay County offers? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Superintendent requests.
Wow. It's only 9:25. Excellent. Thank you all for coming tonight. I learn things every time we come to school board meetings. We've got a lot to celebrate as we bring the 16-17 school year to an end. We were able to do a lot of recognition tonight. We'll have even more in May. And I wish you all a good evening. God bless you.
School board requests. Mrs. Studdard, I'll start down on that end if you have anything.
Just very briefly, we finished up on the Value Adjustment Board this month. Today there was a big scholarship luncheon, the Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Wonderful turnout for the students and a lot of the administrators and teachers who were there, and the academy people were recognized also. The speaker who talked, Laurel Mayberry, about the standardized test, the 114 days out of 180, that's appalling. You know, I agree with you completely. We need to figure out something, folks. That's too much on our kids, and it's too much on you teachers too, and the administrators. That's awful. I mean, that didn't give you any time to teach. Where's the creativity coming in anymore? It's sickening. The only other thing I have to say is the nickel that CESPA employees got, I want to do better on that in the future. I'm going to do everything I can to try to make that better. I'm embarrassed at a nickel. That's all I've got to say.
Ms. Condon?
I guess the only thing that I'd like to highlight is that one of the highlights of my past few weeks of all the events we get to go to was the ROTC inspection pass-in review at Ridgeview High School, and just because it worked in his schedule, Congressman Yoho was able to come for that, and it was a really special time. They all are. I've really enjoyed the ones that I've gone to. I've gone to Keystone High School, Clay High School, and now Ridgeview, and I really enjoy those. And those students have done an outstanding job. And Congressman Yoho highlighted, I think there are 4 or 5 of our graduates that are going to various military academies, and that was just really outstanding to hear. So that's all I'll highlight tonight, but it's a great experience.
Thank you. Ms. Karakis.
I don't have much. Mrs. Studdard talked about the scholarship luncheon that we attended today. It's just great. I was on the committee for the Chamber of Commerce, and we had 140-something applications, and each one was better than the last. They were the brightest of the bright, and it's always a pleasure. I've done that for about 8 years now, and it's real exciting when you see our students just excelling and being recognized for it. So I was glad to be a part of that today. And I am glad that we've settled both of these contracts. And like Mrs. Studdard said, it's a bit embarrassing. And I just hope that our bargaining session next year is a lot more positive. So I just wish everybody a good night.
You don't have anything? I just also want to reiterate, Ms. Condon stole my thunder about the pass-in review, but I also intended that. It was great. I've been to a couple of those at Ridgeview High School, and they are always great. As a former military veteran, it always brings back memories of being in boot camp. But the kids are great, and they really, really did a great job. And I also just want to also reiterate that I am happy that we were able to bring to closure the signing of the contracts, and also to reiterate that it was very tough to swallow that nickel, but we felt like we needed to do at least what we could. So again, you also have my commitment as well that we're going to work to do better. And with that, that's all I have. Yes.
The attorney. I'm sorry.
Yep, I haven't forgot you.
Okay.
Attorney request, your turn.
I'm requesting the board to convene an executive meeting. I'm asking to do it next Thursday at 5 o'clock at the accounts payable conference room. And I have to discuss 2 cases. I'm asking this pursuant to 286.011, subparagraph 8. One of the cases is MN versus CCSB. It's a federal lawsuit. We're being represented by Eric Halshauser. He's going to be present. The other case, the Clay County School Board has been sued regarding Drees Homes, and we need to address that and talk about that. I'm anticipating that it will be 30 minutes. The people that will be present will be Eric Halshauser, the board members. I think Dr. Legutko needs to be there, Mr. Van Zant, and myself, and that should be it. And then we'll have a certified court reporter to take down the entire session.
What time did you say?
I was asking for 5 o'clock next Thursday, if that's possible.
I'm out of town, but you can have it without me.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. At the accounts payable conference room. Same place we did it before, ma'am.
Okay.
With me.
Everybody good for Thursday, 5 o'clock? I'm good.
All right, thank you.
But if I get back earlier, I'll try to make it. I'll do the best I can.
And Ms. Karakis, I'll be happy to discuss it with you and let you know what we're talking about before or after. I can brief you on it.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that would conclude it, ma'am.
Okay. With that, I'll call this meeting to adjournment.